developing very fast, like Brazil, to say, oh no, you can't do this, you can't have all the cars we've had and the energy and the luxuries.
So if we would have some sort of an economic collapse, back to the drawing board kind of thing, it may be useful. And then we may come up with some freedom.
We need to shift and set an example of a different way of living. I think that's something that has to happen if we're going to make the shift easily.
It was announced today that gasless Sundays will go into effect as of next month.
At what point do we recognize we got nothing left to lose?
How bad does it have to get before people recognize the necessity of change, drastic change, meaning you actually have to sacrifice some of your purchasing, your comforts, some of your what you've grown accustomed to for the well-being of the planet?
I think it's going to end with everybody changing their habits and going back to the things that maybe our parents were used to that we have never seen before.
Just start working now, otherwise we won't have time. We're going to be out of oil within a few years.
People say, well, it's not going to run out in our time, but we have to think of our kids and our kids' kids and how they're going to have to put up with a whole lot of stuff.
What I've seen of people, most of them are pretty selfish. When it comes right down to home, why, they just want to go along the same old way.
Make a life change, not just, oh yes, I do care, and I'll send my little check off.
Send Red Cross $100 or $1,000 to deal with tsunami victims, whatever it is, which is great. I mean, it's wonderful that people around the world are doing that, but we're still not really taking responsibility for the global crisis.
Most people, as long as their life is somewhat comfortable and everything goes along somewhat normally, they aren't interested in making any changes in their lifestyle.
Our response to change ever, always in the species has been resistance. It's more comfortable.
Personal comfort, me first, as long as my life feels okay, to hell with the rest of the world. There's millions of children starving, people starving on this planet right now, but as long as your refrigerator's full and it doesn't affect you, it really doesn't affect you. If everything that you're plugged into is disconnected and no longer functioning, without these diesel trucks bringing you everything you need, without the whole system, monetary system functioning.
Now what? Well, now we're starting the hard way. Close to old Mother Nature. You and everybody else on Earth have some things in common. You want to stay alive. To stay alive, you have to have food. You have to have some shelter against the elements. You want to be as comfortable as you can. So let's start with this common problem and see what it takes.
Waking up to this reality is really, really painful. The culture will not change until they're given no choice.
Unfortunately, I think what might cause a lot of people to shift is pain. You know, when they can't get something, or when that something they paid $2 for is now $10 for.
The more it comes home to us, and the more we see that it's our actions or our decisions that are causing this, then I think we begin to wake up. It has to hit us at home. All the time it's hitting somebody out there.
I think a lot of people refuse to change or don't have any interest in any sort of conservation until the shit's hitting the fan.
What are we going to do?
Better find somewhere to go. There's going to be a storm any minute.
There's no real move to conserve unless we're almost already out of whatever it is we're trying to conserve at that point.
Not produce as much as we can use, as we are equipped to use in our homes and our factories. This situation is destined to continue indefinitely. And by indefinitely, I mean not only just the next few years, but as far ahead as we can see.
We don't conserve until we're down to the last roll of toilet paper. And that's the classic non-Cherokee 7 generations looking to the future. We don't even look, beyond next Tuesday. And I think that's a huge mistake.
Those who don't go willingly will, I think, suffer a lot of pain. More people who can make that inner shift themselves, who can let go of this materialistic belief system, the easier it will be for them, and I think the more they'll be able to help others too.
It will be when we can't afford oil to commute back and forth to the suburbs. That's when we'll start eating when we have to.
When willing to look and not in denial. We can't go on like we are.
Wake up. Don't you see what's happening?
We're at the point of no return. If we go much further, we won't be able to restore the balance that we've destroyed. It doesn't have to get any worse. Can't you see what's going on? But for the masses of people, they're still sound asleep and snoring. It's going to have to get a lot worse before they see the results of their actions.
We can fantasize all we want about some groovy eco-socialist utopia, and if you can't breathe the air, it doesn't matter.
This is something that people are going to have to wake up to pretty quick before it's too late.
El día que se enferme el corazón del mundo, sepa que el fin del mundo está a la puerta. Nosotros queríamos que entendiera, hermanito menor, el mensaje del corazón del mundo. porque la madre tierra está débil. Hermanito menor quería crecer, agrandar materialmente, pero necesita espiritual. Si no busca espiritual, tarde o temprano iba a haber violencia, violencia de naturaleza, violencia de humanidad, toda clase de violencia de humanidad.
Weather is making news tonight all over the world. In Pakistan, the death toll continues to climb from the worst flooding ever seen in that nation.
I don't know. We must be doing something to our Earth.
In Russia, a state of emergency has been declared due to wildfires fueled by
Entonces, hoy en día se está viendo.
Twin crises as Mother Nature goes on a rampage. Two disasters, thousands of miles apart, and now thousands are feared dead.
Entonces yo preguntaba, ¿por qué pasaría esto? ¿Por qué va a pasar esto? ¿Qué pasaría cuando ustedes dejan de cancelar la deuda? Se le paga. Cuando no le pagamos va a pasar eso.
Entonces, y eso es que nos cobra nuestra naturaleza. Si no hace algo, o sea, alguna vaina no hace allá, sí, no, tiene que pagarme porque usted va a hacer, pero no.
Pero no es que mismo Seranco quiere acabar el mundo, sino que nosotros, humanidad, queremos acabar el mundo. Pero ellos decían, cuando hermanito menor conozca la ley espiritual, el pago espiritual, ya es tarde.
Sirens blared, but for many, it was already too late.
Cuando ya estamos sufriendo, vamos a entender, pero eso va a ser muy tarde.
Bueno, por eso, tomamos también eso dicho, no es tarde, pero acojamos nosotros lo que estamos criando.
Esto le estoy explicando aquí para que el hermanito menor entienda y reflexione que reconozca sus errores.
A pedir en nuestro Dios lo que están haciendo.
¿Hasta cuándo vamos a conocer nuestros errores mental, espiritual, material?
We could change this, we could turn all this around, we could stop all this nuclear, we could stop all of the destruction of nature and the destruction of the water, destruction of the land, destruction of the air. Well, we could have turned it back, but the people didn't listen to the other elders that gave those messages. Because things have gone tenfold in the destructive direction.
Situation is developing into such a thing that the planet Earth is saying, you used me. I'm willing to nourish you, I'm willing to protect you, to heal you, to clothe you, to feed you, but don't use me.
We rip Mother Earth's skin, we tear her skirts, we mash her face.
How could anybody be stupid enough to kill the planet you live on?
The Earth's resources are being consumed at an extraordinary rate. We're consuming beyond the Earth's carrying capacity right now. And you see this happening in so many places around the world, and it's happening so quickly.
We take everything from the Earth and we rearrange it with our technology into all these objects that the Earth doesn't know what to do with, these plastics and these metals and all these.
This exploitation of the planet Earth for supposed human benefits, but with a totally destructive impact.
When I look at trees, I see dollar bills. That's the essence of the resource perspective. And if when I look at trees, I see dollar bills, I'm going to treat them one way. But if I perceived you as a resource, basically, how can I use you?
Man persists in channeling the vast wealth contained in the earth and sea to his purposes. He continues to challenge the harsh, stubborn forces of nature and appears to be winning. Is he now, as in the past, simply exploiting and plundering?
We've got to start looking at them for what they are, that they belong in the earth.
We can't depend on pulling out resources from the earth. For one thing, they'll disappear. For the other thing, most of our use of resources now is so careless it's causing backfire, repercussions, pollutions, wars, I mean all kinds of stuff.
A 21st century gold rush. They're blasting it, digging it,
hauling it away in massive trucks, all because the price of gold is at a record high, more than $1,100 an ounce. Nowadays, the gold in them thar hills, as in most mines, is microscopic particles. Getting the gold out is a massive task. They grind it, treat it, heat it, until finally they can squeeze out the good stuff. For 190,000 tons of earth they move each day, they'll get a few thousand ounces of gold.
The earth needs gold inside itself. We're taking parts out of the earth that the earth needs as part of its physical being.
Our Mother Earth is a living being, just as we are. If that happened to our own bodies, we would die. But when we can look at it in that way, we're killing Mother Earth.
What we are faced with in historical terms is a transition from a 20th century that exploited the planet Earth to a 21st century when that exploitation cannot continue.
Everything that we need is already here. We don't have to alter anything. We don't have to change anything. And we do that in the name of progress.
That the earth is sacred. Waka. Grandmother Earth is a source, not a resource.
This concern for sustainability, that nature doesn't really need help. It's people that need help.
In one big research laboratory, they're trying to find out what makes grass green.
Sustainability, the way it's thrown about, is a con job. It's nothing but a con job. It's crap that we hear all the time about sustainability.
With automobile engines, we've just really started. The indication is that someday they will give us 300 miles to the gallon.
If they were honest, if they said, driving a hybrid car will burn less gas, but it's still a really bad idea.
Extended range electric car powered by the miracle of the advanced lithium-ion battery pack.
Progress. It starts with more models than anyone with an EPA estimated 30 miles per gallon highway or better. Next, it's a lineup of hybrids that fit the way you live.
If they could develop a hydrogen vehicle, a non-polluting, energy-free vehicle, what that would allow for is the continuation of the paving of the entire world. Do you realize that there's more pavement in the United States than the square miles of the original 13 colonies?
We widen our streets and invite more traffic. More freeways, more cars. And so the cycle goes.
So all this sustainability stuff is simply trying to make this fundamentally exploitative system careen on a little bit longer.
The small reparations or accommodations we make, like recycling, actually can contribute to the longevity of a system that is destroying not only the world, but our spirits.
People who are doing pathetic little changes but not questioning capitalism itself.
Are we talking about the sustainability of the system that's steadily becoming more and more abstract? The cities are becoming less and less beautiful, the forests being cut.
What the word sustainable means is something that you can do forever, something you can do indefinitely.
So what do we really want to sustain? We have to be careful with the kinds of technological and legalistic measures that allow the paradigm to continue with business as usual. The worst thing that could happen would be for us to contribute to business as usual. What we need is a complete disruption of the paradigm.
If the actions of this culture were sustainable, 90% of the large fish in the oceans wouldn't be gone. And This culture is functionally, systematically unsustainable. And buying a new car is not going to help it.
Teaching sustainability because it's the only way to live. Telling the kids about the mistakes of the past when what our wasteful ancestors did back in the year 2000-something.
The basic idea of the future is to listen to the earth, to be sensitive to what the earth, how the earth is functioning, and what enables the earth to produce the wonderful things that it produces in its natural process. There is such an abundance, such an remarkable abundance of wonders and beauty.
Two centuries, and the place is trashed. The place is absolutely trashed.
Without nature, there isn't any life. Any life.
Unfortunately, we're not born with knowledge. We have to learn it. Nature is the ultimate teacher for that. Lots of insights, lots of secrets and lessons with which we could help ourselves. Yet every day we destroy that teacher bit by bit.
What the earth is teaching is a call to an awareness and empathy so expansive that we sense the very pain of the earth.
We need to reach out to the natural world instead of being separated from it, as we really have as a culture since the Industrial Revolution. We really turned our back on the natural world.
The more we turn our back on it, the more we have given up the possibility of learning from nature as a kind of supreme teacher.
Most young people don't have a clue. Most children know about only about less than 10 plants in their neighborhoods and can identify almost 1,000 logos of corporations. I think they've got some serious problems there.
Yes, Jack, the vacation will soon be over, and you'll be going back to school. You and Betty and thousands of other young people will get down to work in the business of preparing yourselves for the life ahead. And what good prospects the life ahead holds. You will live in finer homes than your forefathers ever dreamed of.
All the travails on the planet today are lessons, just as an individual doesn't learn without some difficulties and challenges. Our arm doesn't get any stronger if we don't pick up a heavy load.
Factory foremen, bookkeepers, businessmen, shuffling along the leaden length of a bread line.
It expands our ability to feel, and it teaches us something about right living and what's meaningful in the world.
Tonight, fears of a major disaster in Haiti as a powerful earthquake hits the Caribbean nation.
Tens of thousands are feared dead after a devastating earthquake. The nation cries for help in a frantic search for survivors.
The death toll has reached 200,000.
Baby, the war is coming to an end. bad things happen, about who lives and who dies, and about what the rest of us do when calamity occurs.
God sent his little children out to play and to learn about these things.
In 2008, violent food riots brought the country to its knees.
Many of these people say they can barely afford to eat. According to the UN, world food prices...
But because of rising food prices, some of the poorest can't even afford a daily plate of rice. Instead, they're taking desperate measures to fill their bellies. Cookies made of dirt, salt, and vegetable shortening have become a regular meal for some.
A food crisis with deadly consequences is spreading across the globe.
Haiti's devastation, we all see the common humanity that we share.
Great lesson for humanity that we're learning about who we are in this regard and what our responsibilities are in regard to living in respect of everything.
The story is too big to fit in just one little camera lens.
It was Columbus who first saw that distant shoreline and called it the Vale of Paradise. Today it is known as the island of Haiti.
Are children waiting to join the celebration, purporting to be those Indian aborigines who greeted Columbus. Unhappy people they were. Conquered, enslaved, and worked to their last ounce of energy, those Indians died completely off in 25 years.
The future can be found in many places. It can be seen reflected in the eyes of those.
An experiment of sorts was made, quite unintentionally, but on an enormous scale in the 18th and 19th centuries. A large number of West Africans was forcibly uprooted from their own culture and set down 3,000 miles away in a totally different culture.
It's a country founded on the blood of slaves. In the 18th century, the small Caribbean island was one of the richest colonies in the French Empire, famous for its sugarcane and coffee plantations.
Fast forward almost 2 centuries.
The deep history of deforestation, which has to do with the slave plantations from long ago.
Beginning in the 16th century, the French harvested every mahogany tree in Haiti and then clear-cut thousands of acres for sugar plantations and mills.
The scars of clear-cutting can be seen everywhere. Haiti, 60% of its land forested at the turn of the century, has seen that number drop to just 2%.
Now the country is paying the price. The lack of trees worsens the impact of storms and hurricanes.
In 2008, 4 hurricanes killed at least 800 people and caused...
destroyed 70% of Haiti's agriculture and much of its infrastructure.
Wake up people to the gravity of the situation.
You have to awaken to the truth of the interconnectedness of all living beings and the web of life, the network of interdependence.
Haiti provides a stark example of how environmental damage can affect populations.
Tell me it's not happening, Andrew. It can't be.
It is happening. It had to happen.
Life on Haiti has just moved even closer to hell on earth.
Nature is saying, are you going to wake up? Are you going to get in harmony and balance? All people, no matter who you are, all people were originally put on the earth to be people to support life, to help life to take care of itself, not to be destroyers of life.
Falling out of intimate relationship with the earth, becoming destructive to the planet.
Why is civilization come to the planet? One of the reasons is because it perceives the planet as objects to be exploited, as opposed to other beings to enter into relationship with.
The problem of the human is how to respond to this, not by exploiting the natural world, but by responding to its needs.
People have no clue. You know, people have had no interactions with bears. People have had no interactions with deer. We don't know anything.
The whole vast structure of human affairs
resting upon resources so basic and so vital that we cease to notice them. How then could it be possible to exhaust the inexhaustible? Man assumes it is not.
We would be taking care of these streams and creeks and springs and waterways and the ocean if we all depended and had an intimate relationship with them for our water supply.
Once you lose your connection with your environment, with your natural environment, and you lose that symbiotic relationship where it's a mutually supportive relationship, where you care for the environment, you take from it, but you don't take more than it can actually sustain.
All of these centuries, we have always thought to control nature, to exploit it, never to learn from it, to work with nature, to work with nature as a partner, in a partnership.
Begin to have an intimate relationship with that which supports you. That is so needed on this planet. Live a simple, natural lifestyle in harmony and balance with your environment, with the earth.
Maybe we're going to learn something one day, how we're all connected to things.
And the lesson we are now learning is that harm to another part of the web of life is something man himself cannot afford to ignore.
In a way, this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and they recognize the danger of that.
Mother Nature reminding all of us this is her planet, not ours. She still runs things. We just think we are masters of the skies. A volcano has paralyzed air travel.
It's been raining for more than a week across parts of southern China. Sichuan province is already bruised and broken after a giant earthquake just over a month ago.
Around the world, this winter has brought everything from floods to mudslides with storms that have caused death and large-scale disruption.
Fierce, deadly storms also flooded parts of France. A year's worth of rain in one day. In the Baltic Sea, ice stranding thousands of ship passengers since Thursday. And a day earlier, this rogue wave.
Say a tornado touchdown in at least one New York suburb. In Nashville, massive flooding has left at least a dozen people dead. Thousands of people have been evacuated.
Almost kind of gives you reminiscent of Katrina or something like that. And I think, well, it can't happen here. Well, it has.
It happened because a record 13 inches of rain fell on the city in just 2 days.
Pitiful little people on this planet can do to change the outcome.
What are we supposed to do? And I think right now, most of us don't know. So that leads to anger, and it leads to, escapism.
Greek police were forced to use tear gas grenades to disperse an angry mob of rioters.
That if Greece can't get its financial act together, then other countries with huge debts like Spain, Portugal, and Ireland could be next, could need bailouts too, which might trigger another European, possibly global financial crisis.
The global economy was going to collapse, and one of the primary reasons behind it is going to be a currency crisis. See it in Spain. We're going to see it in Portugal. It's going global. There's no stopping it. Example of what happens throughout history.
Me, what can I do, so might as well go to the movie or pop a beer or something. There's nothing I can do.
Every day now feels like the day before Hurricane Katrina made landfall. The wait for this oil spill and the impact already, and perhaps the end of a way of life.
Anxiety is an indication that people know there's something wrong with this picture. And only then can we possibly need to change it. Anxiety doesn't go away when we've accomplished curing whatever it is that we think is wrong.
It comes the moment that we recognize it and do all we can to affect it. So that means changing our lives as individuals. That means making the hard decisions that may cost us credibility, income, force us to move to a place that more honors our soul and our spirit and the work that we're trying to do. But it does demand from us change. And with change, with that motion, there's no room for anxiety. There's no anxiety when you're walking in the direction of something. There's anxiety when you're sitting there torn whether or not to move.
People are so afraid to give up on hope. But one of the wonderful things that happens when hope dies is you realize that that's where agency begins. You stop hoping something happens, you start doing something about it. And another way to say that is you start waking up.
Do we want society really to be able to go on forever wearing their baseball caps backwards, watching bad movies that don't even have good plots, caving over the planet till there's nothing left of it, to where the only trees standing are in covered plexiglass arboreums with little labels on them in Latin? Would that be hopeful? That we don't destroy that with the nuclear weapons? That we don't have a collapse after oil? That we don't have some environmental tragedy that sets us back to being in touch with the planet and living in real communities? I think the confusion is about what we can be hopeful for.
There's a moment in time and space where there's this golden opportunity to make a shift.
This is the time of destiny. It's the time when things are right for something to happen.
Opportunities to help us look at what we're doing right now and to change it.
Well, the old Chinese word for crisis, Wei Qi, means danger and opportunity. The danger is, if you continue this way, you're heading for disaster. The opportunity is to rethink things, to look at things in a new way.
I believe the opportunity here is to have a leap in consciousness. We have to do things differently. We have to see things differently.
Why are we here? I call this the soul's vision. What was your original face before you were born? That's a question about incarnation. It's about a question about the soul. What was the soul's vision for this incarnation? Key point is to ask yourself and find ways to ask and get the answers from your own higher self or your own inner guidance. The Sufis say, we're like a man who has a 7-story mansion and he only lives on the ground floor. And he's lived on the ground floor for so long that he's even forgotten that there are any other floors. To find the elevator or the stairs which you can go to the other floors.
But I think it's more than just opening a door and seeing here it is. I mean, I think there's a bit of struggle involved.
And it's a very, very difficult thing because you are revealing your true self.
You get a vision for your future, then you have to make it real. And how do you make it real? You take the steps to get there.
If you have the vision, you have the ability to monitor, and you keep focused on what the vision is, and keep on that track, step by step you get closer and closer, and something within learns what to do.
It's almost about expanding our vision of who we are.
Right now I think we're kind of stuck in some old visions as a whole, and need to align ourselves with some new visions.
What then is our role? The only question in life shouldn't be what class do I want to take, what do I want to major in school, what job do I want, or what car do I want to drive. None of those are the questions. The question is, who am I really, most wholly, most completely, including the challenges and the gifts? And how can I best serve and give to the wholeness and the beauty around me? 2 questions, and no others.
You ask the Creator for your vision, for your purpose. Why are you alive? Why are you here? Give me my purpose. Give me my vision. Great Spirit, show me why I am here.
All we need to know is that we are truly and sincerely and deeply with all our facilities, with the full capacities of our vision, our caring, our empathy, applying ourselves to making the world more sane, more balanced, more beautiful. You don't just reach that. That's a daily thing. That's not a plateau. That means that every day of your life, until the last moments on life support, that you're moving in a direction. You're not really immobile in that hospital bed at age 90. You are still moving, you are still growing in the direction of what matters most. Your own realization and betterment, and the realization and betterment of the entire world.
There is a wave sweeping across the land.
The present is such a time when Noah's Ark is urgently needed, we might say. A reality, symbolically, is a role that all of us are called upon to play.
If we were wise as a culture, if we were wise as a country, we would be taking much of the wealth that we have today and starting to position ourselves towards the inevitable changes that are coming.
Is to educate people about how it works on planet Earth and what you can do.
Show people what's happening in the world and with the collapse of ecosystems, how it's going to affect you, how it's going to affect your business, how it's going to affect your island, and maybe it'd be a good idea to take some actions now, you know, while we still have the luxury of being able to do some planning, and we still have the money to do it.
Damage effects can be mitigated, but to mitigate the damage effect, it has to be planned like 20 years or 10 years in advance. There isn't that much time.
It means we have to stop bringing huge amounts of material from underneath the earth. It means, secondly, we have to stop infusing nature with hundreds of thousands of different synthetic chemicals.
3 degrees, Rich. Got winds coming in from the top turn. Turn right and left. Seems to be right. That's very on.
And third, we need to stop the physical destruction of the planet.
We done?
We're done. 1,700 gallons almost.
The solutions for the future are going to depend on us becoming very attuned to the natural world, and we shed our hubris and become integral with the larger ecological forces that sustain us.
Doesn't mean that things are preordained, that we still have options, we can still blow our destiny. But destiny is this perpetuative movement that follows along these lines. All we need to do is follow the lines, sense ourselves in the warp and weft, and follow it from the past to the future. We can make our decisions of whether or not we want to participate and how we want to respond to what's going to happen based on that. And then we participate in the remediation and the healing. We participate in the changes. We don't try to prevent them. If we trace the lines from where we were and what we were to where we are going, then we add, how do we want that to look? How does the earth want that to look? How can we give to that? So it's not just a warning how to avoid trouble that's coming up on the horizon. It's also this chance and opportunity to co-create magically the universe, reality itself.
And that then also connects back to you. That would be the destiny. See, destiny is what you're moving towards.
What way is animated and spirited life moving, and how can we move in that same way? Just like when you step into a dance hall, if it's samba, you don't march in line, you know. If it's rock and roll, you don't waltz. You get in step with the progression, the direction.
That person knows enough about how this all works and is enough in harmony with it that they're able to sort of lose the distinction between I'm over here and the weather's over there, and they participate in the unfolding of the whole thing.
You've got to pick yourself up, and you've got to be a part of the conscience that demands to do something. We regret when we don't take an action, when we've held back.
If you have a vision and you don't do it, then you feel dispirited and depressed. I have no passion, no meaning, don't know what to do, kind of aimlessly wandering around.
I hear my being dance from ear to ear. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. Of those so close beside me, which are you?
Saw their village surrounded by a much larger number of cavalry. They didn't say, oh my, the odds are against us, I better just get depressed. Instead, they said, Hoka-hey, it's a good day to die. And they'd ride down hooting and hollering, these crazed-ass half-naked Indians with feathers in their hair go riding down, and 9 times out of 10, the cavalry would split, and they would succeed in saving the village. Not because they're better fighters, not because, of any practical matter, but simply because their chutzpah, the unlikelihood of somebody engaging that passionately, that suddenly, that completely, disrupted the superior forces, and they prevailed. But they didn't ride down knowing they'd prevail. They rode down either way, because it was the right thing to do. And you know what? The Hoka-hey, that's not fatalistic, it's a good day to die. A good day to die would be like moping around, oh, I'm so depressed I must be dead. No, it meant, if it's a good day to die, if it's a good day to risk your life for something that means something, then it's a day to fully live, to fully be alive. Fully be alive.
Okay.
The people who come after are not going to care whether we recycle, they're not going to care whether we drove hybrids, they're not going to care about whether we wrote really good books or made really good movies, they're not going to care about whether we recycle, they're not going to care about whether we ate meat or didn't eat meat, they're not going to care if we were nice people, they're not going to care how hard we tried. What they're going to care about is whether they can breathe the air and drink the water. They're going to care about whether the land can support them. And that is the only thing that matters.
Undoubtedly the human species will survive, but under what conditions? And what about all the other species that are not surviving and are already gone extinct and are going extinct rapidly?
This is where appealing to the sacred in a really humble way and really, asking for guidance. That's what this time calls for. And in a really humble way.
Rediscover the wisdom that all the great saints and sages and mystics and holy people have been telling us for thousands of years.
So we have the choice to choose the positive, to choose the good and healthy way, or to choose the negative and dark way, which is the destructive way.
We could avoid this catastrophic experience that we're creating for ourselves by becoming voluntarily good stewards of this planet.
They call the people primitive who live like that. And yet, is there any other way that can sustain human spirit or sustain the world that we depend on?
The secret of life is follow your bliss and help people. You never know, it'll come back to you.
What can you do? What can you be? Pursue that without any limitation. That would surely change the world.
That's the dance.
somebody to tell the story is really important, because the memory of people is not very good.
It's one giant system. We're not separate from it. And seek harmony with our ecosystem and its members, then we will be rejected as a species.
And everything comes to one as we dance on, dance on, dance on.
Water is getting contaminated. Someday we're not going to be able to use that, I was told by the spirit of the water. But people didn't believe what I was saying at that time.